Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Seaweed Brain, a Percy Jackson podcast live in the duet. We are in our two parenthetical phase because we're talking about the Red Pyramid. Today, wow, we have some very important chapters. We are going to be like Annie Hall found dead in a ditch when Harry met Sally, like rolling in its grave. Love and basketball, you're still great. But like, no, we have some important chapters today. We're going to meet Anubis. And also other things are happening. But stick around. This is the real crux of the Red Pyramid for today's episode.
What is the crux of a pyramid? Is that like a geometry term I should know? Like what the crux of a pyramid is?
No.
Geometry was my worst subset of math.
I have such a strong memory of the two of us being on like in Washington, D.C. together, I believe, and like phone checking grades, and Erica and her mom being like clinched it on the geometry final.
Wait, in a good way or a bad way?
In a good way. You were like, oh, I was like, I was at the edge, and we did it. We secured the.
Yeah, I believe I got 2 A- in high school, and one of them was in geometry, and the other one was in choir. For a long story that honestly is personal beef that I don't want to air out on the podcast, but I was in the right.
Yeah, now that you're putting her bulletin famous, you gotta watch what you say about.
My choir teacher was in the wrong. And if you're listening to this, you know who you are.
And you know you were wrong. You know you were wrong for what you did.
You were wrong. You know you were wrong for what you did. And I hope you're thinking about it. I hope it keeps you up at night. I do. And I hope that you've learned from the error of your ways.
Anyway, yeah, we have some great chapters today. We have a great special guest. Hi, Phoebe.
Hello.
Phoebe from Monster Donut is with us. What's up?
Not much. I'm flashing back to my awful experiences in math classes now.
Yeah, what was your worst subset of math, Phoebe?
Oh, I like fully failed so bad at algebra that they moved me down from like honors to A level classes at that point.
It's okay. It's okay to succeed in language arts.
Yeah.
Well, we have drama today. We've got drama chapters. It is the crux. I think we're going to start asking ourselves some hard questions after the chapters today, getting into some real conversations.
Yeah.
And we've got returns of fan favorite characters. We've got a cliffhanger ending. I think that we should set ourselves up with where we were at the end of last week and then just dive right in.
Yes. So last week, chapter 27, we were entering the underworld by sailing towards the river delta in our magical boat, captained by Bloodstained Blade. Specifically, yes, the reason we are doing all of this is because we need to get the Feather of Truth. Thoth has told us that there are a few ingredients that we need for the like spell of defeating Set. And one of those ingredients is the Feather of Truth. The only way to get the Feather of Truth is in the underworld. This is one of those things that is a part of the classic Book of the Dead rituals where classically a dead person will make this journey. They will go, they will be judged. The Feather of Truth will be on one side, their heart will be on the other. They'll be asked some tough questions about the way they lived. And if they, answer well, they will proceed. Their soul will make its way into the underworld further. And if not, their heart will be devoured by Amit, who we will meet in these chapters. Amit is an underrated icon who we did not shout out in the intro, but we will meet. So that's what we're doing. We've just gone past this sort of like, I guess part of the like entry test. There's like a demon who came out to challenge us. Sadie named him. And so now we are going deeper into the underworld and trying to get that feather.
I have to say, and I know that this is probably my privilege of the age I was when I first read a certain book about a school of witchcraft and wizardry. But it was these chapters of the Red Pyramid that for the first time I truly understood how frustrating it is to develop like an entire world of magic in which you never have to like gather supplies in order to do spells. Like where you can just magic things out of thin air and there is no ingredient gathering and cost, like physical cost, like
okay, that's the real
gold,
one.
like
that. Okay, like because some of the world building stuff in that other series is just like, how would you say? Like they're just like labor issues that we never get into. Like someone is gathering the ingredients, but we don't know who it is. We don't know what they're doing. We don't like
in like potions. Sure,
it's like a huge failure of world building that there's all this like wolf's bane and like whatever. Like very few of those ingredients are gathered by people we know. Like I guess see the mandrakes being raised and stuff, but like weird world building, which is, of course, to say nothing of the fundamental idea of like, what makes someone good at transfiguration? What makes someone talented at casting a killing curse? No one knows. How many can you cast? I guess infinite. Maybe? What makes them different from each other? Who can say?
That's what I'm saying. And I know I feel ridiculous, and it's the first time it's really occurred to me. But I think because it was like, because I was so young when that was the first thing I knew, I just didn't understand. But now I've been playing a wizard at D&D for like a year, and that is frustrating as hell. You got to make sure you have enough money. You got to make sure you're preparing your spell book. You got to make sure you got all the ingredients and everything that you need.
Yeah. I didn't even think about the fact that this book series kind of works on like Dungeons and Dragons rules.
It does.
Many things do. Like
they have spell slots in a way because you'll just pass out if you do too much.
Yeah, which makes sense. And that's the way a lot of like, I'm not online enough in this particular community to know how different people have metabolized this book in the years that it's come out. However, I will say when I read Carry On by Rainbow Rowell for the first time, my first and strong reaction was like, oh my God, all the world building in the original go at this was wrong. Like, I actually did have so many questions about how anyone was doing anything that are answered by this basically like work of meta fan fiction. Like, a piece of fan fiction from within another book has better answers for like, can you do too much magic?
Do kids still know about Rainbow Rowell? Is that too much our generation? Should you explain that for the kids younger than us?
No. That's what I'm saying. I think that the people younger than us just know her from Carry On and the ensuing books, and they like might never know what Eleanor and Park is, or like Landline or any of those works. But I know those books are like, I think they're like at the front of the Barnes and Noble. And like maybe even for people who haven't read the source material, and in which case, God bless. This is kind of a tangent, but we are gathering ingredient supplies. We are going deeper into the underworld
because we're doing real magic. We're doing the craft, real magic. Capital C.
Chapter 28 is I Have a Date with the God of Toilet Paper. Okay, so to preface it, we all read these books when we were younger. Immediately from the chapter name, I was like, oh, I was clenching things. I was tweaking out a little bit, like in my CS lecture the other day when I was like prepping these notes. I don't know, like not even in a necessarily way where it's like, I don't know. I was a little apprehensive as well. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to react to these chapters as an old person with different understandings of who these different characters are. But I felt in my body. I was like, this is going to be the big one.
I opened the book to the chapters that you said we were doing and was like, there's no way I got the Anubis chapter. There's no way.
I actually think it was a mistake because I scheduled these recordings and Carter was like, wait, are we recording out of order? I swear Darian wanted these chapters. And I was like, I don't even remember Darian being on this podcast.
I'm curious to hear what other people think about Iskandar's whole spiel here, which is basically, your mom was wise. Actually, it was wrong. Like, he does give some historical context for his decision making, but he basically is like, yeah, I did determine by the end that we needed to revitalize the way of the gods and start allowing people to host again. But rats, it also sounds like he came to this conclusion before he died. But he was like, I knew this to be true, but it was too late for me to do anything about it. And he like dies, no longer has political power, and is like, I guess this whole organization that I just was leading like 2 days ago is trying to attack you and stop you and maybe jail you, but that's my bad. You know, like I now see that that's kind of a mistake. Like, even if we sympathize with where he was, his grief from 2,000 years ago, why? You were alive 2 days ago. Like, Sadie's mom died like several years ago. This upset me a little bit. Even his very sincere apology, I was like, if you felt this much sincerity, how about a rule change? How about a policy amendment while you were alive?
Frustrating, but yet true to life. No?
Yeah. No, I'm mad, but also I do know her. So much, oh God, so much of being in academia is talking to somebody who's like, I'm sorry, my hands are just like so tied right now because like this other old person like has this opinion of me, and like, God forbid I like change a thing, even though we all know that I'm supposed to change a thing, and like I'm really down, and the fact that I'm so sorry about it makes it all okay. It doesn't, but I take your point that this is 100% what he would do.
The theme of today's episode is old people in academia needing to realize their wrongs sooner.
Ooh, yeah. Let's circle back on that.
I was more hung up on him saying that you need to, like, to Sadie, to keep your personal feelings out of your decisions, and that he didn't do that. And obviously I thought of Zia.
No, yeah, I was thinking a lot about this chapter while reading Zia's chapter, like the next chapter, which I guess we'll get to. But yeah, it was everything about Iskandar, right? Iskandar's perspective on things. It like makes so much sense when you look at Zia and the way that she acts in this world.
Yes, and was raised. There's so much loss in these 4 chapters and just in this book in general. I was also shooketh by how moved she was to see Iskandar, and also stressed because seeing his ba means that he's actually dead.
Yeah.
And they've just lost this other, like, parental figure, and they're about to, like, this whole question about, would you save, I guess that's coming up, right? Would you save the whole world, or would you save your father?
Yeah. There is a lot of loss. And she's like, I was really interested with how, it was fascinating to see how guilty Sadie is in this moment. Like she is really, I guess, internalized the idea that it's her fault. She did something that caused this like 3,000-year-old man to die. It was tough to read, but also like, again, like it does make sense. I understand how Sadie would internalize that.
Yeah. There's almost like, not that comparing really does anything for us, but it feels like this book has so much death and so much loss compared to Percy Jackson, just because of them losing both of their parents, and Amos, and then Bast, and then Iskandar, and then Bast again. And
spoiler,
Philip, you know, like, yeah. Anyway, I was just thinking about that. They really go through it.
Should we talk about what Iskandar actually says here? Like he talks a little bit about his relationship to their parents and about the wisdom of returning the gods, but a lot of it is sort of this like history from a very personal perspective that he tells us about what it was like watching the fall of Egypt and why these rules were put into place in initially. And he specifically is giving like, it's like a big swipe at Cleopatra here. I feel like Cleopatra is someone who's like reevaluated by historians every like 10 years or so, and like we keep back and forth on like,
we're gonna get a American rap musical about Cleopatra in T-minus 90 seconds. Cleopatra, the sapphic YA novel about her and her handmaiden, is incoming.
I think like she is one of those figures who it's so like everything about like modern zeitgeisty like race, sex, history, discourse is like loaded onto her in a different way. And I feel like this sounds like not what I would hear about Cleopatra today. This obviously like Iskandar is not like speaking for like the, I don't know, like culture makers, and like this is maybe not what historians would say in 2009, but like I feel like this does reflect maybe like an slightly older understanding of Cleopatra, that she was like sort of vapid and weak and like not really of Egypt, and that's why all of these problems happened. Whereas we don't, I guess, hear any other perspectives because no one else is that old in these books. But I found this a little interesting, and I wasn't sure how much is worth harping on people alternatively strongly feeling like Cleopatra is like a feminist hero constrained by her circumstances. We're recording all of this shortly after like Honora won Best Picture, and people are having a lot of online feelings about what it means to depict a woman in a constrained situation with not that many options, and whether or not that's like sort of like fundamentally an anti-feminist project.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting because I think earlier in the book, I forget if it's Carter or Sadie, but one of them has a dream about like a very brief glimpse of Cleopatra.
Sadie's like walking through the Hall of Ages, and like she witnesses the moment where Cleopatra puts the snake on herself.
It's depicted in this way where it's not quite heroic, but it's also like we sympathize with her, at least the way that Sadie describes her. It felt like sympathetic to, you know, all of these troops coming in around her and her doing that. And like just combining that with like, we keep hearing about Cleopatra's needle and like that being at the core of everything, bringing it back to Isis. And it's just, I feel like Cleopatra is so around them.
Yeah. Iskandar does also like a little bit give us like a magic lore backfilling. This isn't just a historical perspective. This is him saying also that Cleopatra tried to host a goddess and failed, And that's part of why Egypt fell.
And did she fail because she didn't have enough quote-unquote royal blood?
Yeah, we're really...
the
Iskandar
pharaohs.
really getting us into the royal blood. The line is diluted. Like, there's like a biological reason why order has been disintegrating over the past 2,000 years.
Do you think Iskandar would be like, what we needed is more incest the whole time?
I think Iskandar is a Bene Gesserit. I think Iskandar is would be like, we need to
Iskandar's
reactivate
like,
the
put her
thinking
head in the
machine.
box. That's so true, because this is right now, he's like testing Sadie for her courage. He's basically, put her head in the box right now.
He literally is, put your head in the box. Yeah, wow. Except his plans were not measured in centuries, because he was like, he would have been the Bene Gesserit, but he didn't have the courage, he didn't have the fortitude to actually like... I'm making hand motions for a very visual medium, this podcast, but he wasn't actually making things happen for this. He was just like, this is wrong. The people are weak. And what is he doing to strengthen them? Nothing.
He's like raising his daughter.
He's raising his
living
daughter.
out his father fantasy.
And that's also valid. Like, let me not come for him too hard. He was also dealt a weird hand. Should he have been Bene Gesserit? Maybe not. Maybe it's not
Was he the woman constrained all along? Is he Mikey Madison?
Is he Mikey Madison? I'm gonna say no. But you're raising some real questions.
It was worth asking, right? It was worth asking. My favorite part about this, though, is that he doesn't actually need to be having this conversation with Sadie at all. He's just using the fact that he needs to show up and test her courage as an excuse to talk to her.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the conversation, he's like, BD dubs, you have plenty courage, girl. Go through. Pass on through.
Yes.
I don't even need to test you. I know you. You're a friend.
We didn't mention this earlier, but everyone else is frozen. Like, Carter's also a living person who's trying to get into the underworld. In theory, one might assume that he should also be tested. He's just frozen. Silent, excluded. Yet again, I really feel like this, especially these past few chapters, it's just L after L for him. Like, can he be included in something? Can he be...
He unfortunately feels like a supporting character at this time.
Yeah.
Best supporting actor.
Like a real one.
Sadie's doing everything.
But also at the same time, like, she is the only one who had like a real moment with Iskandar. Like, Carter actually doesn't know him like that. So maybe it would have been weirder. Well, okay. Is there anything else that we have to say about this?
To the juice. Let's go to the juice.
Let's go to the juice. Okay, we leave Bloodstained Blade behind. We are at this sort of temple. This is going to say something about how juicy the juice was. Like, I have read this book several times before as a child. A lot of the descriptions of the sets, I feel like I was seeing for the first time because I was just so like, get to the meat, like blasting through all of the like setup dialogue, set descriptions. And even this time I had to really like hold myself to it and be like, wait, hang on. I feel like you just like blasted through 3 paragraphs and have no idea where they are right now because we were trying to get to there's some interesting stuff here, like where it looks like we are at this sort of ruin of an Egyptian, maybe palace or temple. And as we're getting deeper in, Sadie is starting to experience this sort of like superposition, palimpsest type of situation where there's like also these like other cemeteries and maybe different architectural styles and sounds and sights and stuff that are also simultaneously existing in this place. And this is where we meet Anubis.
Meet in quotation marks.
Yeah. I'd also totally forgotten about this entrance where Bass is like pissed and she says the dog is near and gets tackled by him and immediately runs away in dog form. Did anyone else remember this, that he enters as a jackal, like assaulting Bast for fun? I feel like I blacked out on this.
I think assaulting is going a little far.
Okay, well, like aggressing her physically, certainly.
You know what I have to say, and I know where Emily stands on this, but I don't know where Phoebe stands on this. As somebody who is now coming to the Red Pyramid with the knowledge of a human who did read A Court of Thorn and Roses very recently, I feel as though Sarah J. Maas was deeply inspired by the Red Pyramid by Rick Riordan in that novel. Phoebe, have you read it?
I haven't.
Okay, great.
I've been actively avoiding it, I fear.
and so was I, but then I was forced to read it under contract with my sibling. And I would say this for the people who I'm sure listening have also read it. I do think that this interaction summarizes like the entirety of both romantic journeys that the main character in the first ACOTAR book goes through. Man as beast, and also dark-haired mysterious boy of death. And I just want to say Rick did it first. And that's all I'll say on Sarah J. Maas. Okay, continue.
Okay, we could read a physical description here. He had a pale complexion, tousled black hair, and rich brown eyes like melted chocolate.
Carter, if you're gonna read it, you have to do the accent. I'm so sorry.
Oh, God.
No, you don't have to, but
It's going to be a Charlie type of accent. It's going to be really bad. No, I don't think I can. It's a little too long for me to attempt to do a Charlie voice the whole time. I'm just going to read it. He had pale complexion, tousled black hair, and rich brown eyes like melted chocolate. He was dressed in black jeans, combat boots, parentheses, like mine, a ripped t-shirt, and a black leather jacket that suited him quite nicely. He was long and lean like a jackal. His ears, like a jackal, stuck out a bit, which I found cute. And he wore a gold chain around his neck. I see a lot of the vision. I have to say my first reaction reading this back was like, wait, was he always white? Is this always how we understood this character? I guess we don't know that he's white.
He's just pale.
Very pale.
Yeah.
I haven't been tracking this super closely. Throughout this book, have we been like doing this like Egyptian gods are like several different races in their depictions thing?
I feel like I didn't register it until this one.
This is the only one where like everybody else I've been like picturing. I don't know, like the histories of like different like ethnic migration flows through Egypt is very complex, as we've like a little bit discussed in this, but like this visual description is like clashing a little bit with what I had been picturing previously, which is weird because obviously this is what was here the whole time. Like as a child, I did read apparently that Anubis was pale. Maybe I just forgot. I'm finding this a little like startling.
I think that it's going to come up again later when we meet other gods, and we can talk about it then as well.
Yeah.
No, I definitely remembered that he looked like this because of how many Nico D'Angelo comparisons there were back in the day.
That you couldn't tell who was who in the fan art for a while.
Yeah.
If it was Anubis or if it was Nico.
Which is also interesting because Nico is described like he's described as pale on some occasions, but he's also described as
olive skinned.
Yes, he's supposed to be like a tan Italian ex, like Anyway, I a little bit was reading this back being like, the subtext for me was a little bit giving like, I wonder if the culture was aware of the idea that you could have like goths and twinks who are like not really pale. And like had different ethnic backgrounds.
That's a good point.
Because that was kind of a, not everybody knew. Genuinely, I feel like some people were like, goths are skinny white boys.
I would also like to say though, later on, Sadie is like, you guys didn't see that super hot boy? And they're like, no, he had the head of a jackal the whole time.
Oh. So this is just Sadie projecting. Sadie from...
Yeah. Sadie from England.
Sadie from England.
Projecting her idea of what a goth boy might look like. Or is it just her projecting what like her biggest crush would be?
It's literally her saying this is her dream boy. You can put all the different valences on that. Yeah, okay. That's fair.
Which maybe reflects more on Sadie, but we don't know yet why he looks like this, and if it's all her, or if it's him doing it, or like what the tea is.
Yeah.
Ooh,
there is also this interesting, like she mentions this little thing about the like ears looking like a jackal. A lot of the description of this, I like. In many ways, the description is kind of generic. You could swap it out for Nico. You could swap it out for anyone on the Warped Tour, But like, I think there is this. There's like a layer there of like specific characterization of her doing like sort of like aloof, but like dog boy. Is that a thing that I'm allowed to say?
Dog boy
in this forum. There are like descriptions of physical mannerisms along with the ear thing where like he's like tilting his head in confusion at times. Yeah, Sadie is struggling to speak, and we get drawn out to the like one-on-one chat. I was also when I was reading this back, I was a little like, when does Carter leave? Like, how does this work? What are the mechanics of this?
Yes.
And it kind of isn't actually explained. Like
I was also confused. I was like, where's Carter this whole time that Sadie is running her mouth? I would be so embarrassed if I was acting like this in front of my brother.
Basically, Sadie is just like more attuned to the like other dimensions of the space. Like she hears the jazz music. She like sees the cemetery. And it seems like the way that it's written, at some point she's just like so attuned with that like, wow, actually they're in New Orleans and Carter's not there anymore.
I was also confused by that. Okay, so I wasn't just not paying attention.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Like I don't feel like it like doesn't go. Like it's spooky, it's mysterious. We're like playing into Sadie having a relationship to magic, and also like there's such a like, I don't know, like borderline uncomfortable like pick me girl mysticism that's like occurring in this moment that I do feel like really works to establish the dynamic and what is going on and how Sadie's feeling.
And her special bond with the dog boy. She's attuned to him.
Yeah. Oh. Should we just talk about this? There's some like other like nice housekeeping adjacent things that are happening here. We meet Amit. Not me referring to that as housekeeping. Amit is great. Amit is tiny. Real ones love Amit the Devourer, who eats the souls of the unworthy and is small and like naps a lot. And is also currently unemployed. I guess that's an important actual like table setting. What's going on metaphysically right now piece is that like this whole it's supposed to be the Hall of Judgment, right? This is supposed to be the centerpiece of the afterlife, and it's kind of falling apart. The scales are broken. Anubis can't fix them. Osiris has been gone for a really long time. The afterlife is out of balance. Chaos is growing because the souls are getting lost. All of that's happening. And I feel like now is the right time to just get into the dialogue, get into the back and forth a bit, because we're there. I'm losing my ability to speak. I think we need to get into it.
The girls were too stunned to speak. Something I really like about this, we don't need to go beat by beat through this conversation, but something I really liked about it is how much of an effort is gone to make him seem like a young boy. There is such an effort to say, okay, yeah, this is a god, and Sadie wants so badly for him to be like a normal boy who is being possessed by a god.
The funniest part, the first question she asked is like, I don't suppose you're like, you know, like being hosted by like a real mortal or anything. You know, like she's just trying to like slip it casually in there, but just like the first thing she's asking, like, can I date this boy and have it be less weird? She is a woman on a mission.
Yes, I love her so much because she doesn't want to date a god. She knows that'd be weird, but there's so much like talking about his parentage and his feeling of being unwanted and the way that they connect on that, and that she understands his feeling of being the odd child out. That time kind of went on without him and he kind of lagged behind, and so he feels like this eternal youth in that sense. I don't remember reading this book as a kid as much as I remember the discourse around this relationship as a kid. Like, I remember people being so upset about it, more so than I remember reading it. And reading it back, I am not as upset by it, I think, as people were. But I'm also
This is fascinating. I don't remember anyone being upset. I just remember gagging. I remember being a 10-year-old being like, oh, so much is happening right now.
In what sense? Like, were you pro it? Were you against it?
Yes, I was like, this is how... I did not grow up with like romantic comedies. And I would say now I'm somebody who has like not necessarily that positive a relationship with them. But at the time I was like, this is like, what is going on right now? This is really powerful. Like, I need to reread this. This is like candy.
Oh, like you were like, this meat cute is so delicious.
Yeah, but also like not really having like a framework or like language, or like, I think that we were like in a different place. We're like, also like, this is also the point in time where like, I think you would have been like stoned in the town square for saying something like, I like a pop song or something. Like, it was like a very, I don't know how much of this child culture and how much of it is that like the transition between the late aughts and like the early teens was such a like irony core indie supremacist layering situation that it was like impossible to be like unironically interested in, what is the word I'm looking for? The opposite of irony.
Normalcy,
yeah,
baseline,
like, genuineness,
like,
authenticity, but like not because it was so authenticity core in the other sense of like, oh, like real authenticity is not like anti-schmaltzness. I think was like so powerful. I didn't have the tools to like get way through those layers of like, you can't have like a big romantic moment and be like, oh no, this is what's happening. I'm like, so this is like, this is just like raw serotonin happening in this. That's my table setting.
Okay, great. I was afraid I was going to get stoned for saying it's cute.
We can like take apart whether or not we like feel that it's appropriate for it to be like this, but I feel like it's really effective, setting aside.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that I think that there's great effort gone to in this chapter to make him seem like a kid.
Yeah.
To explain the way in which he has matured throughout history as remaining an eternal teenager.
There is some of
and
that.
An orphan.
There is also some interesting, like, I don't know if I felt like this is lampshading or if it is like thoughtful engagement with these ideas, but like the way that they talk about the family dynamics within the gods also, they're like, as part of it is like necessary establishing of Anubis's backstory, but like there's so many weird like lines that are reminding you of the different family layers where Anubis is like, you remind me of your mom. Whoa. Like, is that what you say like 3 minutes before asking somebody on a date? Like, I don't know about all that. Anubis is like, Isis was basically a mom to me. Okay.
It's so awkward.
Osiris was my dad, but also like Sadie's dad is like kind of Osiris right now. Certainly, like he is hosting him. There's like that level of like, but then also we didn't really ever get into that situation of like, okay, Isis and Osiris and the most famous myth about them are a married couple. But in this current hosting iteration, Osiris is the dad. Do we have thoughts about that? We're going to unpack that? Are we going to... Okay.
I am suspending my disbelief. I'm fully with them right now.
Yeah, and I guess that's what it is that like, I don't know. There were different approaches is what I'm saying. Like one could have imagined Rick trying to like shove this all to the side and be like, oh, no. It's just cute. Like these are two people with like common interests and mutual understanding who have some banter. We're going to not mention the whole like, oh, and by the way, there are like 3 to 10 different ways you could try to read family dynamics onto what's happening right now.
No, but we
or, like,
are mentioning
age
it.
dynamics.
We're letting it be awkward. We are acknowledging it. And I totally want to say that like there are so many examples of situations in specifically like YA literature where like immortal being has romantic relationship with young non-immortal being that are extremely difficult to read, and I would say like actually bad and actually harmful to your psyche as a young woman.
Mm-hmm.
But I would not say that this is one of them. I would say Shadow and Bone is significantly worse than this by like many miles. Personally, the books, not necessarily the screen adaptation.
There's like some sections where they're trying to remind you that he has power and that matters, but like it's weird the way that it's written. You almost don't believe it, or you don't internalize it, or like. But then also like we don't know how much of that is just like Sadie being 12 and having opinions about the world, and this being a first-person narration, and like maybe if we were watching that, we would be like, oh no, Anubis is weird. This is weird.
This is so interesting to hear because the way that I was like because I didn't remember this relationship basically at all as it is on the page. I remembered it from the discourse.
Same. Oh my god, Phoebe.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
And reading it, I honestly, the vibes I was getting off of it was like child obsessed with a babysitter almost. Because Sadie's 12 and he's processing to me as like a 16-year-old. Like he feels like a teenager to me.
I think he's kind of like 14 was the vibe I was getting. And if anything, that is what makes it more uncomfortable as opposed to the whole immortal god thing.
Yeah. I think it was especially the line about like you remind me of your mother was the part that like instantly aged him to me, because like Sadie was so young and you were exactly as you are now. To me, the vibes I was getting off of it was like child who just has a crush on someone who is too old for her,
Exactly.
but in like the normal sense, in the real world sense.
Exactly. In the way that we don't blame Annabeth for having like weird feelings towards Luke when she's 12. Same thing.
Yeah, it was that. It was that to me.
Except this one is like he very unambiguously asks her out at the end of this chapter.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so, because she said, okay, so he has that line about like, maybe you can teach me about courtship rituals. And then she says that he has like a glimmer or like a wink in his eye that tells her that he is making fun of her. So we're not there yet.
I don't know. I think he unambiguously asked her out, and how you feel about okay, either he unambiguously asked her out, or I guess like to me the stretch reading is like irresponsible, strange, doesn't understand boundaries. Okay, Phoebe, how do you feel about like the dialogue itself, though? I guess is what I'm more curious about. It's not totally inextricable from this idea of like the babysitter dynamic, but
I don't know. I'm obsessed with the dialogue in this scene. I think it's really well written.
There's like a lot of like sharing past trauma. And I feel like a lot of that is, to me, I was reading this back feeling like it was relatively restrained. Like some of it, like when he's like, he literally says the line, "I was a different child." Okay. You might as well put your little Cole Sprouse and Riverdale hat on. But like
I don't
at the same time.
and I don't want to fit in.
I think that there is some restraint in Sadie being like, not being like, no way. I also felt left out for these reasons. Like, I'm also between worlds. My parents also had a weird relationship with me where I felt unwanted by my family. Like, she doesn't get into all of that. He's just saying, like, these are some, like, high-level biographical details, and I will give you, like, one sentence of, like, I have some feelings about that. And the way that I don't know, like I think that's like a big component of it. And then there's the whole the feather of truth interrogation scene. I also was like, this is the juice. This is the juice. This is what if you are like 12 years old, this is the most intimate romantical thing that could possibly happen in your life is
It
being
is literally
forced.
like playing Two Truths and a Lie or something. Like, it's like being at the sleepover and doing like Never Have I Ever.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's genuinely such a cool device to inflict on one of your main characters, is like the idea of you can't lie for the rest of the book if you succeed in this quest, if you succeed in this trial.
It's so cool, and it really, I think, gets that balance between like so 12 years old and so like also aged up responsibilities. And the questions that he asks are so like, okay, I genuinely forgotten that this was part of it when I was reading back through. And I think that if this were written by somebody else, you would imagine the format of the questions is like silly one, serious one that's foreshadowing something, and then do you have a crush on me or something, like
Yeah.
what we get instead is first question is accident that Sadie lawyers her way out of, which already I was like, we're starting strong. This is right. This is that's banter. That's crisp. Question 2 is like establishing curiosity and depth in one of Sadie's relationships that has nothing to do with basically like the fate of the world or like Anubis, anything else. It is just like trying to understand like her values and what she has going on. First question is like basically like, are these terms okay with you? And she's like, okay, that's question 1.
Second question is, would you give your life for your brother? And she immediately says yes.
And she immediately says yes, basically without thinking about it. I just feel like that's also like that's the realness. The idea of flirting somebody by asking them about what their relationship is like with their siblings.
So
do you know that GIF
coded.
of Cynthia Erivo
So
tapping the top of her head with her long nails? That's me. That's me reading this. I was tapping my head with my long nails and thinking about the power in that. And the final question is like it's like the values plot device question. Like the final question is, would you like sacrifice your father to save the world? To me, this really worked. I found this very effective as far as like putting this relationship. I shouldn't say relationship. Putting this like flirting within the contours of like actual like mutual curiosity and like stakes for the world, and intertwining with these like self-reflective dynamics that we have been following her work throughout the book up until this point.
And the fact that she's doing this all with who is basically a stranger.
Yeah.
Yeah. The immediate like intimacy between these two is really cool.
It does also tickle my brain.
Yeah.
And it's real banter. Okay, the real dead in the dish here, I think, is the befores. Before sunset, I feel like truly, after I read this, I was like, you are dead in the ditch. This is...
Sure about the Ethan Hawke movie?
It's an Ethan Hawke movie, yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is, in my opinion, this is like that core idea of like strangers getting like weirdly personal, but like, I don't know. I feel like there's so much characterization in also, like, I feel like we know Anubis so well after this like very short conversation where like he isn't even necessarily saying that much, and like his banter, I think it's relatively specific. Like people could push back on this, but like there's like something like that feels like simultaneously like teenagery, but like not exactly nerdy and not exactly rebellious, but like also like a little bit like stiff old man, like I don't understand what's happening right now. He's like out of his depth, but not in a way where he's like losing his ability to like ask interesting questions or like have sort of retorts where you can see him like thinking through how to react to Sadie.
I'm gonna have to pop out in a minute, but you guys can finish without me.
Wait. Okay, we took too long on this.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. We didn't, because I want you to continue to take your time. I also wanted to say that one of the ways that I feel like we learn so much about Anubis is not just through the dialogue, but it's in his reactions to everything Sadie says.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of like blinking that he's doing and like being confused by what she's saying and like having to process everything that she's saying before he speaks.
Yeah.
She's just such a loud talker and a fast talker and so abrasive. And he is so like, let me process before the words come out. And like, I need to like take in what is going on with you.
There's a great line. Anubis closed his mouth, then opened it again. He looked as if he wanted to get angry, but couldn't quite remember how. Are you always this infuriating? That's the juice. That's the juice. Oh.
No, I think that... Sorry, you have to leave.
Okay, Erica has to go, but Phoebe and Carter are going to finish the rest of this conversation in the following chapter, which has never happened before. Wow, exciting.
I will be playing Erica today.
Continue.
I think there's a connection between the like authenticity that I'm getting off of this entire dynamic in this conversation and obviously the conversation around truth. But I'm also thinking back on, I know this conversation ends with the idea that it takes courage to be truthful and like bravery to be truthful, and that this entire chapter has been like people talking about having to face hard truths, and like Sadie specifically being referred to as someone who's very brave.
Yeah.
And that's the way she even made it here, is by being courageous.
Yeah. I think this is like in reference specifically to her like having this secondary wave of guilt after saying that she would in fact sacrifice her father to save the world if that's what it came to. She's feeling really bad, and he's saying like, actually, what you just did, like, you should feel proud of that.
It's both of these moments also are like tied up in these, they're both like really guilty moments in Sadie's head. Is like both the Iskandar stuff is like she's sitting there feeling all of this guilt and being told that she's being brave, and same thing here of feeling like really guilty about what she just admitted.
Yeah.
But being told that the feeling that she's having is also should be bravery.
Yeah. That's like basically everything that happens. I don't know that I feel super resolved. I feel resolved that the writing is good. I don't know that I feel resolved about the, I guess, normative implications of this potential relationship.
I feel like the fact that, like, in some ways she is his mother and, 5 other complicating factors, the fact that that comes up throughout this chapter, I don't know that we're meant to feel that this is 100% normal.
Yes. This is, like, at the risk of, like, spoiling low-key the whole trio of books. Like, I don't think that this is just going to be, like, a dainty, fun, uncomplicated ride that we just sail on through on the strength of fun flirtations. Yeah, okay. I think that feels like a good place to I guess, wrap up that conversation. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be back to talk about Chapter 29. All right, Chapter 29 is Zia Sets a Rendezvous. We're back in Carter's POV. This is like a much shorter chapter. Most of it is just driving through Texas.
Yeah, I love Carter's little note at the beginning of like the fact that you got the cool chapter and you're going to hand the microphone over to me to do the drive through Texas. Like,
because I felt the same way. I also was like, oh, okay, I guess that's what we're doing now. So we are driving through Texas. Like, a lot of this is just sort of like reflections. This is like, I think, a standard Rick practice, and a standard, like, you kind of have to do this at some level in all writing, where like when a lot happens, you need to decompress a little bit. We need to like have some light processing, reset our character relationships in light of the new information. And so we have some of this conversation. Like, Sadie is really avoidant now because she has the feather of truth, and like basically is like, you can't ask me any questions about anything that just happened.
Yeah. No, I feel like this is where you feel at least the beginnings of like the gravity of what Sadie has just agreed to. Like, yes. A simple conversation with her brother that would have been totally fine and normal a chapter ago becomes this minefield. It's fun, but it's also like the amount of lies and non-truths that like any normal person, or at least Sadie, is like, you can tell, tempted to tell. It just all becomes so apparent, and you're like, ooh, yeah. For the rest of the book, it's going to be like this for the rest of the book.
Yeah. It complications, but also like it is pretty fun. We do get this line that we alluded to earlier about how everyone else just sees Jackalhead, and specifically Carter, I think, says he was huge and terrifying, and yeah, pretty nasty. I have no commentary to offer beyond that. I just thought it was funny. We're at 24 hours left. Oh, there is one other thing that we should mention here, which is that Carter, as he's sort of like reflecting, putting the pieces together, because there are like these multiple mysteries that we have, like who's hosting set is like something that's kind of like bubbling under everything. Carter's taking a moment to be like, wait, I just saw Desjardins in my dream sequence, like rescuing a plane full of people. Would he do that if he were hosting set? Maybe not. Maybe he would to keep up appearances. Also, like, didn't set attack the plane, but then would he attack himself to like preserve the illusion? He's like raising some questions here. They're unsettled, but we're supposed to be like, okay. I don't think it is effective. I'm like, okay, maybe it's not Desjardins. That feels a little obvious, and like I don't know how many layers of deception we should be expecting here. I guess there's also this like Bast thing that I don't know. It's not exactly new information, but Bast is sort of like ramping up the like emotion, guilt. Like she has a moment that I think is very stereotypical of these like protector stories, where she's like, by the way, at this point, even if I weren't oath bound, I would still protect you anyway. Which it's tough. It's not just a cliche. It's also like a whenever I experience this cliche, my first thought is always like sort of like like what are the like service worker like labor like implications of you being like actually like my fidelity to you, sort of my boss, is like beyond the confines of labor, and that's like admirable and says something about like the depth of human relationships.
Yeah. I've been debating with myself about this one because I feel like a part of why Bass does feel like she has like a personal reason to protect them is because she feels a little bit guilty still.
Mm-hmm.
And like she's been so in and out of the rest of the book so far that it's hard for me to like 100% buy that we have built a relationship with the kids themselves.
Interesting. So you're not reading the like anti-Bast angle on it at all. This is more of like a like you're seeing this as her like coming to grips with like metaphysics and like politics, and her being like, it is important for order that I do whatever for these kids no matter what.
I think it's more like as a reader, am like, have I seen enough of you acting on like your own personal love for these children yet? I don't know.
No, I think that's fair. Yeah. Because I guess she hasn't really, she has never really up until this point done anything like self-sacrificial, really, other than like being there and helping and fighting, but like also like up to a point. I guess there was that moment with Serquet, the like scorpion goddess, where it seems like maybe she's like really going through it, like in real danger, but it's real. Okay.
It's hard to tell exactly where or when the line was crossed for her.
Yes.
But I also admittedly speed read this all so fast for this episode, so it might have happened and I went right past it.
Okay. That all happens. That's our table setting. We spend a lot of this drive doing sword practicing in the back with like Horus as hosted god spirit giving advice about sword fighting, but also giving advice about like life. My main reaction to this was that like after the Anubis chapters, feeling like this, like Horus probably deliberately is written in such a lifeless manner that it was like the contrast is really stark. Like, I don't know. We're probably also presumably not meant to like Horus and find him particularly like compelling, gregarious, interesting, but like, I don't know. We're like really maybe overshooting that mark in terms of this like voice in the head having almost no personality, just being like some embodiment of duty and warrior spirit, sort of divorced of any particular like.
He's very distant. Yeah.
Yes, very distant. And like I don't even feel like, I feel like there are ways to do like warrior to give it more individuality and specificity and like quirks. And it's like interesting that they seem to be leaning pretty hard into like not doing that for Horus when we really are doing that for some of the other deities. Like we're gonna meet like Jeb in a few chapters, and we met Nut, and like that's another situation where it's not because she's not hosted or anything. Like we're kind of meeting her, but she's a little kooky. Like it doesn't seem like there's some sort of universal idea that like all the Egyptian gods, because they are these like sort of like more like primordial forces, they don't have fixed relationships to each other that like are different in each hosted instance that they experience, that like it doesn't seem like that's incompatible with them having stronger personalities in other sections.
I can't remember because I speed read this again. Has he appeared like sort of physically like this to Carter yet?
No, I think this is also the first time that he's appearing sort of like as a like vision hologram situation. You might expect this to be the one situation where he maybe has more of a defining set of characteristics because he's sort of like embodying himself separately, but
like you're actually meeting the voice that's been in your head all this time and like following again, like you said, the Anubis stuff. You're like, oh well, this is going to be an encounter. Immediately cut off though.
So it's true. He doesn't get that much opportunity because Zia cuts in, interrupts. This is the first time I feel like that we're seeing this mode of communication that is also like sort of very, very like mystic even within universe. Like I don't think we've ever seen anyone do this before, and we don't really know how she's doing or what the mechanics are, and that's fine. We probably don't need anything like that. I like that she interrupted Horace. I was getting a little tired myself. But she's here to she's here to like convey a bunch of information. Part of it is like, yes, we are trying to intercept you. If we run into you near the pyramid, we're going to focus on taking you down first, and then we're going to try to deal with that. And part of that seems like a warning, and part of it seems like Zia isn't totally resolved mentally about like what she thinks is right here. Like she's trying to also tip Carter off and get everyone on the same page and provide some reconciliation, but she also still seems to be pretty sold on the idea that like he can't really control Horace, and that like it would be irresponsible for them to try to like use the hosted god power complex and directly take on Set themselves.
Yeah. This was why I really liked having this conversation after the Iskandar stuff.
Yes.
Because of like him having sort of had this realization slowly at the end of his life, and not acting on it, and then seeing Zia, who it seems is maybe like partway into the realization.
Yeah.
You know, like thinking about trying to figure out how to do what she feels is right within the bounds of the work that she feels she has to do, and within the bounds of like what she's been taught. And maybe she's not quite at the point of like questioning those things fully and trying to act on it, but it feels like sort of she is, knowing that she was, you know, one raised the other, and so that it feels like a similar line of thought that she's coming from,
sure.
and knowing that she might have the potential to actually do the things that Iskandar did not. What I was sitting with.
That's a good. I think that's a good framing of her like being his continuation in that way, and like also going through the same sort of like prior updating process, but also having like basically imported his like really strong priors about what hosting looks like and the dangers that are entailed. Okay, I have to ask about the banter and how you felt about it in this section, because I haven't hated it, and I don't like. I like the idea of their couplehood. It makes a lot of sense to me. I can see it. There's just something about this like chapter to chapter, head to head comparison that where I was a little. It was tough. I wanted to root for. I just felt like the dynamics were weird, and like Carter is being put into this. Like it seems like they're trying to slot him into the role that like Sadie is playing in the flirtatious banter in the previous chapter, where he's kind of like obstinate and withholding and this like wild card. I don't. It's weird. It's like not a natural fit, I feel.
Yeah. No, I think I agree with that. I think I am. I just love the concept behind these two of like the idea of them connecting, and then like that moment of you know, the next time that I see you, I'm gonna have to try and kill you, just so you know.
Yes.
It's just really exciting to me. And the reason that I was put off with this conversation was that it felt like it was almost going back on that promise.
Yes. Wait, okay, I really agree with this. That like Zia, like I don't think we totally follow where Zia's like I'm not totally following her process and like why it is that she is like a warning is one thing, but she's also trying to logistically offer this pivot where she's like, I'm going to not only like offer you a chance at reconciliation, but I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to like move us in a different direction and be there even if you don't trust me, to like create this opportunity to like help you get the House of Life on your side. Like she's doing a lot and he's kind of not giving her anything. This isn't like a meeting in the middle even really here.
No, it's like she's kind of had this, at least part of this realization off screen in some ways. But also that because Carter is being so stubborn in this scene, it's like forcing her to keep pushing it to the point of like, oh, let's have this, you know, secret meetup.
Yeah. Secret meetup is fine, but I think there's something about like the like one-sidedness and the sense that like it's almost written as like Zia losing a negotiation that I find really kind of like settling and like I feel like off balance after reading this. And like part of the idea of what is cute about their relationship is, like you were saying earlier, this idea of them being like sort of like relatively like nerdy and stiff and like resolute and being on these opposing ends of this particular conflict. And for her to, I don't know, like it would be a less compelling relationship if she's like losing the like opposite sides situation that they find themselves in. Which she isn't necessarily, but like I don't know. It's strange.
Yeah. I will say I did like that Carter was being a bit stubborn here, but at the same time that there was really no anger in his narration. Like I wasn't getting upset. I wasn't getting like it seemed like at one point he even like Zia reacts to him being kind of, combative, and he starts to feel guilty about it.
Yeah. I kind of feel like he's giving nothing. That's the thing, is like I don't understand, like his responses are really short. We're not getting that much in the way of like strong emotions or thought processes or anything. Like I think part of what made their interactions compelling the first time is him sort of like overreacting to everything and like having that be sort of the like emotional thread and like momentum that's carrying us through those interactions. And he's like kind of unresponsive here, and like he feels some guilt, but like I guess the scope of emotion feels relatively limited in a way that I don't really follow.
I will give him the benefit of the doubt and say that it's because he doesn't know how to feel.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
He's got so many conflicting emotions, he doesn't know which one to act on, and so nothing.
I think that's right. And I think that we will. I think when we see them next, we'll have a more compelling set of circumstances to get us back on the train. Is there anything else to say about this? I think that's basically covering it. I think it might be important for plot purposes for us to mention like the name of the rendezvous point, but I in fact forgot to write it down. So like there's a sort of, did I write it down? It's like a town in New Mexico, I think.
It is Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Las Cruces, yes. And that the name of the town is going to be important for something that we'll see 2 chapters later. So I guess we'll just note it and come back to it. We're maybe going to Las Cruces, depending on what Carter decides, because he still seems like he hasn't made up his mind at the end of this chapter. But that, I think, about covers it. Well, okay, we did mention, I guess, earlier in this conversation that you've never had the seaweed brain question posed. You've not had an opportunity to answer it in front of the kelpers. I don't know if we have a... Should we come up with a name for
the kelpers?
That's maybe a problem for another day. I guess first, do you have any like thoughts to offer about these chapters or like the Red Pyramid generally upon getting back to where we are in the book?
Yeah, I mean, it was really fun returning to it because it's been really so long since I read it. I think I haven't read it since it came out. And I forgot how much I enjoy it. It kind of feels like 5 books at once to me in a fun way.
Yeah.
Like I forgot how much location hopping is happening and how many new quests were going on. Like we're given so many different directives throughout the book.
Yeah.
It was fun. It's a little bit of a whirlwind, and I don't remember how it ends at all. So
great. Do you have an answer then to also offer to the question of whether or not Persebeth is the greatest love story ever told?
Oh, my answer to that would be there are unfortunately love stories that I do maybe love more, but I love the actual buildup of it throughout the first series is some of the best romance writing that I've seen.
Do you want to shout out your number one?
Oh, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And I said it. I think Erica sent in this question once when we were doing like a wrap up of the whole series. And so we did like jokingly answer it. And I did say Destiel. And so I think I have to stand by that one.
I think you do have to stand by it. It's already on the internet. Hey.
It's already out there. I'm not going to contradict myself. It is Destiel.
Are you excited for The Boys season 5? How do you feel about that whole situation?
It's funny because like I was watching The Boys and then didn't even watch Jensen Ackles' first season. I stopped before it came out and was like, I don't know if
it was a tough season.
Turning for. I think he's a great actor. I'm sure he's good over there. I don't know.
Will you be tuning
I don't
in
know
for
if I'm
season 5? I
compelled
guess
to.
it's a better question at this point.
I'm not gonna watch it, probably, unless something crazy happens. Unless Destiel goes canon over there, I'm not watching it.
All right. That's we respect strength of conviction. And that is this was some real feather of truth answering here to and we respect that. All right. I think that wraps up our episode. It's so weird to be doing this wrap up. Eric had to leave early for something. We'll see you all next week. Next week we do have some very exciting oh my god. Next week we have some very exciting chapters. We have a new guest. Thank you for sticking with us. We'll see you then. Bye, y'all.